Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Security Guy TV, securityguytv.com. Now, this is a little follow-up from my friends at Black Hat, Cybrick.io, and Mike Kail. Hi, Mike. How you doing, CTO?
Great, Chuck. Glad to be part of this.
Now, we missed you guys at Black Hat, a little scheduling issue, so I want to make sure we get you back in. So we'll be streaming this to our live stream event, which has almost 7,500 views from the event a couple weeks ago, and really excited to have you on the show. So, Mike, tell us what you guys do at Cybrick.io.
So what we've developed is a cloud SaaS automation and orchestration platform that seamlessly embeds security testing from code commit to application delivery. So if you look at the existing landscape of secure static code analysis, into
Mike,
a policy-driven.
I'm sorry, Mike, I had a little feedback on there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So what we've developed and architected at Cybrick is a cloud SaaS platform that seamlessly embeds security testing from code commit to application delivery. So our policy-driven framework converges all of the existing best-of-breed open source and commercial tools from source code analysis, static code analysis, source code composition, open source and third-party library vulnerability checking, as well as the dynamic application security testing and pen testing tools. And so, giving that single pane of glass throughout the whole lineage of an application, once again, from integration at the far left into your source code repo, integration into your CI build platform, and then in the pre-deploy, we replicate your production application and aggressively do application security scans, looking for the classic OWASP top 10 issues such as cross-site scripting and SQL injection. Some of the things that companies continue to get hit by and haven't really changed over the past decade. And so given that single pane of glass view, also in giving you targeted remediation advice.
Now, I noticed in your literature, you talk about security as a service. This is kind of a unique thing to your company. Speak to us about that.
So there's the well-published shortage of cybersecurity engineers. I think the latest number was 1.8 million shortage of engineers by 2020 or something like that. So how do you take automation and orchestration and leverage that to perform the manual testing that's done today at a periodic basis? And we really need to take a continuous approach. Hackers and script kiddies are certainly attacking infrastructure and applications continuously. So how do we level the playing field? So that's really the service we provide, but it's not adding bodies or professional services. It's a SaaS platform as a service.
Now, you have a PowerPoint we're going to show in a second, but I have to get my small, teeny-weeny security guy radio brain around this, okay? Here's what I don't get about the biz. I understand when we write code, we have to get things to market quicker than later. That's competition. I understand we have to make money. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool capitalist. I get all that stuff. Why don't we start with the security programmer first? It says, I'm going to lay security down here first as my foundation, and you guys go ahead and build your code on top of that. Why doesn't the industry not do that? I mean, I get all the other arguments, but really, shouldn't we start doing that now, given that cyber threats have turned into national security issues?
I mean, that's tangential to our core thesis of the shifting left and bringing security testing, at the far left, at the code level of application security. But, in all honesty, I think the soundbite that's been echoed a lot is security is important, but not a priority. And so no one prioritizes building that at the base of the stack. So, we're trying to make it as seamless as possible without being encumbering to developers. Developers don't want to do something outside of their normal development workflow. And that's where our platform via the automation orchestration really helps that.
Yeah, and the developers don't have that level, like you said, of security programming. They do the other programming. And this has always perplexed me. But if we have a shortage, what are we going to do? It seems like you have the right solution. Now, do you want to get into your PowerPoint and show us that?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. So you just give me a cue and say, hey, next, or how we want to do it, and we'll throw up the slides, and we'll go from there. All right, Mike.
Okay. Well, let's start off the PowerPoint.
So, all right, here we go.
Okay, we'll go to the next one and just go kind of over the agenda that we're going to talk about. So I'll talk about the problem, the approach that we've taken based upon our our prior experience, give an overview of the product, a summary, and then we'll also talk about the webinar we're going to do in early mid-September with our first customer. So, move on.
All right. Oop, sorry about that. Okay, there we go.
So here's kind of stating the obvious that the current approaches to application security are really failing, that it's never been seamlessly integrated into the entire life cycle of the software development process, and that pen testing is often done manually at a periodic point, whether it's once a quarter, once a month, or twice a year with the PCI certification process. And that if you've attended RSA this past year or in the past years, there's a plethora of point solution tools out there that are deployed and interchanged every year most often, but there's no correlation and seamless integration and interoperability with all of the teams. And no one to date has really taken the scalable automation and orchestration approach. And if you look at the mega trends of the culture of DevOps and adoption of that, as well as cloud migration, none of these point solutions and manual efforts really scale out to meet the needs. And I think we keep falling further and further behind. So go on to the next slide, please. And so this whole notion or concept of shifting left, which is bringing security testing and scanning earlier into the SDLC, is really how to start improving your security assurance. And assurance is a word we use at Cybreak instead of insurance. If you think about product and service assurance, that is what you want to deliver to your customers. But you also want to keep going with faster time to market, with less defects and issues that you have to remediate later or apologize for. And you also want to maintain availability, or what we also talk about as resiliency. So like the next slide, please, and we'll continue on with that concept.
Okay. Well, I got stuck on my pushing here. Hold on one second. Something didn't go live. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. All right, why is it not going up here? Well, Mike, we had a little glitch here. Hold on one second.
No problem.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that.
So as now is the time to shift left and actually move the needle, or try to move the needle on improving security and security assurance. Like, as we move to more agile development methodologies, and automation is prevalent in all of the world today, or it's coming with things like autonomous vehicles and AI powered platforms, that we need to start improving security as well and actually make it a priority. So I don't want to bore people with statistics, but I think there's a lot of studies out there that say, look, here's how many people are implementing the DevOps culture or adopting it, and what are the benefits. And one of our main drivers on the culture side is to enable the culture of DevSecOps and have this collaborative environment where security engineers are also talking with developers and the DevOps infrastructure engineers. So, next slide, please. So once again, the Cybreak mission is really to fully automate and integrate the security testing throughout the SDLC, from the far left at code commit to code building to application delivery, without ever impacting the production environment. And on the delivery aspect, that's by replicating your application environment, we're able to aggressively test against it. And if we are successful with, say, a SQL injection attack and corrupt the database, it's the ephemeral copy, not your golden master, which affects performance and takes your site.
Oh, Mike, we lost your audio there for 1 second. Can you still hear us?
I can.
Oh, there we go.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
You just cut out for a second. It happens. Repeat that last bit you had there for a minute.
So I think the big benefit of the Cybreak platform on testing at the application delivery phase is the replication of your application environment. And so we can do aggressive pen testing and AppSec testing. And if we're successful with a SQL injection attack, for example, and happen to corrupt the database, it's done on the ephemeral copy, not your master copy, which would take your production site down and create a contentious conversation between security and the rest of the company and degrade the culture. So like we've tried to take a thoughtful approach to this. And And now I'll go into more of a product overview and show some of the screens and how we've taken a simple yet complex approach to our solution. So once again, our approach is really giving you this centralized platform that gives the CIO and CISO complete visibility throughout the lineage of an application and code. And we haven't developed yet another scanning or security tool. We've integrated with a bunch of best-of-breed open source and commercial tools. And some of our partners include commercial companies like Veracode, Black Duck, Sneak, and White Source in the security realm. And it's really about automating and orchestrating the testing of that. So in this first screen is when your super user or admin comes in, you set up what we call an integration, and that integration is really your environment. So if you're an AWS customer, we peer with your VPC, which is your virtual private cloud, and that's how we clone that environment. So you have to enter in your Amazon ARN, the resource name. We are able to connect to it, and then the integration is complete. So once again, we've tried to automate this aspect of it. And now we'll go on to the next slide where we show the next step, which is where we create the policies. And once again, we tried to keep a very simple UI UX, and that I want to create a policy that does a code scan with an open source tool called SonarQube. The target is my Jenkins environment. When Jenkins completes a build, I want to run this scenario, which runs an artifact scan using SonarQube. And at the bottom, we have the notification schedule and the notification means. So we want to fit into your workflow. So if there are issues to remediate and you want to get a Slack notification, or you want to integrate with your VictorOps install or something like Jira or ServiceNow, we're adaptive to that. So I view our platform as Switzerland, and we don't want to tell you how to do your workflow in your SDLC. Once again, we're this flexible fabric that the policy is adaptive to that. So, and here's another example of the next stage, the further right, where we use a AppSec scanning tool called OpenVAS, and we run that against some targets in your VPC, and we display the targets and you select them, telling us what composes your application. And then based upon the schedule, we run the AppSec scan, and once again, give you the remediation notification if there are issues via the mechanism you choose. So we try to make this policy like 3 to 5 checkboxes or selections. We also have the integration, like I mentioned, with Black Duck, and we can do that at the build level with Jenkins or at the source code level at GitHub. So we've integrated into the kind of the CI/CD pipeline and those different tools. And it's the same concept as before. And so once you have your policies up and you start running these, you log in and see what we call the Fabric Hub, which is kind of the current state of what has run and any issues that have been found from critical, warning, informational, and any other detections, and allow you to drill down and collaborate with the development team to get these remediated. And then we have also on the next slide, we have our deeper analytics. So I guess, sorry, this is another example of Fabric Hub given the AppSec scan. And then the next slide will be, I believe, Fabric RX. So Fabric RX is our analytics dashboard, which shows everything that's been run in your environment over time. And you can think about this as being kind of your CIO or CISO dashboard to be able to go in and have that complete visibility that I spoke about before, as well as kind of determine what your overall resilience is. So no one can be 100% secure, but at least now you know when issues were found, when they were remediated, and if there is an event, you're able to time box that much easier and have confidence to go forward with your customers if you're public facing and announce that you had an issue, but here's how long something was in the system or something was vulnerable versus really not knowing before. And once again, I'd say visibility drives resiliency. So to kind of close it out and just kind of rehash what I talked about, we're really talking about this continuous security assurance and visibility for the executives across all of your code repositories and application deployments, as well as infrastructure. And we've future-proofed this, that we've integrated with the current set of tools, but any tool vendor or security testing piece of software that has an API, we can easily integrate with, and we can also embed with different vendors into that whole development CI/CD tool chain. And like it talked about with the replication of the production environment, there's zero impact to your live production applications and data. And I should also note that we never take your application or data back into our SaaS environment. That always lives in your account and in your environment. And this is really about starting to play offense on the security side that we kind of spoke about at the beginning, and enabling proactive remediation before issues are ever delivered to production, which reduces your level of risk. And like you said, why isn't this done kind of at the start? And that's what we're trying to do, is create that culture of collaboration and bring security into the SDLC.
Now, security as a service is not a new concept, but there are not many players in that space, are there? I mean, not like in other vertical markets.
I think some of the previous vendors, or what we look at as a competitive landscape, the as a service is really about professional services and bringing in white hat hackers to help you. It's kind of a SWAT team to come in and do something very tactical, and they add value for sure. But we need to take a strategic, continuous approach to this. So we've tried to say you can't keep scaling out your security engineer human capital. So how do we converge this onto an automation platform and start leveraging kind of some modern technologies, and including over time, us building out a machine learning model to get to automated remediation. So as we take in data from known vulnerabilities and how they were remediated, we can build out that model and start testing what we call self-driving security.
So the bad guys are equally as intelligent, I'm assuming, right? They're on the other side, the black hats, white hat. Maybe more so, right? Because they're more aggressive. Are they doing this stuff too? Are they coming up with automated ways to attack? And so now are we getting to? I know it sounds a little crazy. People say this when I say it. Are we at the Terminator? Is right? Is Skynet going live pretty soon, where the machines are going to be automatically defending and attacking each other? It seems like it's going that way. It's kind of weird.
I mean, the concept or term of script kiddie has existed for a long time now, where they've taken scripts and automated that. I think a lot of the hackers are getting more and more sophisticated in using modern techniques of automation. I think the challenge we all have is they only have to get it right once. We have to be right all of the time.
Right.
So it's not a level playing field, but by leveraging automation, I think we can at least close that chasm between their advantage and our vulnerability, and hopefully deter them more and more. I hope we don't get to the Terminator world.
I was at Secure World a couple of years ago talking to a guy named Carl Herberger, and super smart guy. And he said that people have done the math on this, and they claim that by the year, I may be wrong, was it 2025 or, sometime before I'm dead, let's put it that way, that the internet's going to become self-aware. What are people doing to think that through, come up with solutions for it, stop it if they have to, control it if they have to? He seemed to think that it's just going to happen, and maybe there's not much we can do about that. Any thoughts on that?
So I think there's been a lot of talk recently about intent-based security, intent-based networking. So I think if you think about intent-based and self-aware, I think they're somewhat related. And there's also new technologies. I think on the security side, there's this concept of how can we leverage new technology like blockchain to have a new internet and actually build security into it, versus security was never built into the original internet or ARPANET.
Right. It's all about trust. It's still about trust, which is ironic. Right. And you'd think we'd have more problems than we do, because it is still based on trust in a lot of ways. That's very interesting. So where are we going with that? With the building?
So I don't think we can build a I don't think that the internet doesn't become self-aware by itself. Like there has to be real paradigm shifts in how it's delivered today, and the challenge is, how do we operate or fix the plane while it's in flight? If you look at something, on a smaller scale, like the transition from IPv4 to IPv6, that's been ongoing for years now, and no one's really taken it seriously. So I think the transition to a new internet or more self-aware will take a long time.
So I might be dead before that. That'll make me very happy. I don't want to worry about that.
Chuck, I don't want to predict your demise, but I think 2025 it would be a stretch.
Okay, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. Now, you guys have a webinar coming up, I think, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so on September 14th, myself and the CIO, Jim Rutt of the Dana Foundation, which is our first official customer at Cybrick, we're going to be talking about how we helped him kind of fuel innovation as well as bring security in. So as he transitioned to the DevOps culture and the CI/CD pipeline, as well as migrated to cloud, we were able to work in concert with him and really enable and use the Cybrick platform to enable security and give him the assurance as he moved from the hardware perimeter of his on-prem applications to cloud and having that continuous visibility. So I think it'll be a great conversation with Jim. He's been an absolutely amazing champion of the company and customer. And I think there will be a lot of good nuggets for CIOs and CISOs to take away from that, just from his experience.
And that's Thursday, September 14th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we can find registration at your website, I assume, Cybrick, cybric.io. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I'll also be using some of our social channels to promote that as well. So if you follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn, I'll be posting that periodically there just to remind people. Excellent.
Mike, CTO of cybric.io. It's been a pleasure. I'm really glad we got you back on after Black Hat, and look forward to more conversations. Feel free to tweet me, Skype me, whatever those things are that we do with any updates. You want to come on the show and do some recent nuggets of wisdom, just give me a buzz and we'll do it. All right?
Great. Thanks, Chuck. We greatly appreciate it.
All right, I appreciate it. This will be posted on securityguidetv.com at livestream and on our Black Hat 2015 from Las Vegas post as well. So we'll see you next time on Security Guide TV. Thanks for tuning in.